I'm Chase Sr. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. And coming up on today's show, this is very interesting. Could the Niners trade quarterback Brock Purdy at some point instead of handing him a new contract extension? An NFL executive said that to Mike Sando of The Athletic, and we're going to talk about it and whether or not it could be a good idea for San Francisco moving forward. And I know a lot of you are already saying this, and you're thinking, here we go. Brock Purdy plays poorly against one of the top defenses in the National Football League. He was confused and confounded against one of the top defensive minds in the NFL in Steve Spagnuolo, and now the drama starts. Now the trade talks start. Now, how this began is that Mike Sando, a writer for The Athletic, spoke with an anonymous NFL executive, and the NFL executive pitched a Brock Purdy trade and said that the Niners should maybe consider trading him. They have an aging roster. Will Purdy be able to elevate the players around him as this team looks ahead into the future? And they might not be able to afford all the complementary, star-studded weapons around Brock Purdy. So now let's explore whether or not this is logical, whether or not it makes sense, and if it could come to fruition. Following the loss on Sunday against Kansas City, in which Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy both had two of the worst games that I have ever seen them have as an offensive play caller for Shanahan and as a quarterback for Purdy, I wondered to myself as I sat on my balcony on Monday thinking about the future of the Niners, thinking about currently who they are as a football team, and I posed this question. Like, if the 49ers don't want to pay Brock Purdy, what is the alternative? If you don't have a quarterback in the NFL, you are stuck floating in mediocrity, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. You are in a position where you just don't have a future. And while Purdy is clearly not on the level of Patrick Mahomes, and we saw that as both quarterbacks played bad games on Sunday, Purdy had 3 picks, Mahomes had 2. Mahomes was able to make the special, game-changing, needle-moving plays. So Purdy isn't on that level. But would I take him ahead of the likes of Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins? For sure. And that's why Purdy is a top 10 guy. So if you don't want to pay Purdy, or you're at least hesitant in giving him a new contract, what is the other alternative? This quarterback draft class this year stinks. I like Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, and that's about it. And outside of those quarterbacks, I don't really trust any of the QBs in this 2025 class. And then the free agent quarterbacks aren't all that good either. Some people were saying Sam Darnold. Kevin O'Connell is maximizing him for sure with the Minnesota Vikings, who are one of the top teams in the National Football League. But then there's reports that the Vikings could be trading for Matthew Stafford for a quarterback swap, which would signal a rebuild for the Rams. And that goes to show me that if the Vikings are interested in that move, they know there is a ceiling for Sam Darnold. It's the quality coaching that's really maximizing him. Now, we're going to run through a lot of what Mike Sando had to say in that piece on The Athletic, and let's start with this. Sunday provided an extreme example of what the 49ers can look like at their worst with Brock Purdy left to fend for himself on offense. Christian McCaffrey remained out. Deebo Samuel fell ill shortly before kickoff. He lasted 3 snaps. The other starting receiver, Brandon Aiyuk, suffered a season-ending knee injury shortly before halftime. If Purdy had carried the 49ers past the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs, with all that stacked against him, what else would remain for him to prove? That Purdy tossed 3 interceptions in a dreary 28-18 defeat might not change how the 49ers feel about their quarterback, but the moment does provide an opening to consider the Niners' future as they move closer to the day when the 2024 season ends and Purdy becomes eligible for a massive contract extension. It could get tricky for them, an exec from another team said. So with that, I'm going to pose today's poll question for you and pop it up here to my right. Is Brock Purdy the future for the 49ers at the quarterback position? Type F for the future, type M for you think he's mediocre. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, use it to your advantage, scroll on down, and share your thoughts with me. Now, this is where I think Brock Purdy excels. This is where I think he has some elite traits. Timing, anticipation, accuracy, processing, creativity with his legs. He also wins a lot. And I know that the 49ers have a lot of talent. I know some people will say quarterback wins and losses aren't a quarterback statistic. I disagree because we literally judge quarterbacks on whether or not they can win Super Bowls. You look at Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, John Elway, Dan Marino, all of those quarterbacks varying in how many Super Bowls they won. If they won any Super Bowls, we determine their greatness based upon Super Bowl victories, right? Phillip Rivers never won one. Donovan McNabb never won one. Are they on the outside looking in of being in that Hall of Fame argument? Eli Manning had a pretty mediocre statistical career, but he also won 2 Super Bowls, took down the undefeated New England Patriots, then beat them again after that, and his 2 playoff runs, absolutely legendary. And a lot of people believe because he won those 2 Super Bowls, he is a Hall of Famer. So Brock Purdy is 20-8 as the Niners starting quarterback since taking over in 2022. This is his second full season as a starter. And I also want you to keep that in mind because look at how good Jared Goff has gotten after his Rams tenure. Look at how some of these other quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield are playing after they were deemed as busts. Look at how Sam Darnold is performing after everybody wrote him off. It's almost like playing the quarterback position is really, really damn hard, right? And it's almost like players get better with experience. So with more experience, can Brock Purdy continue to get better? I've said here on this show, I think at moments this year, he's played some of his best football because of the adversity that he's had to face, all of the injuries that the Niners have suffered, and how the defense, special teams, and his coaching has let him down. But the fact that he's 20-8 in the regular season and 4-2 in the NFL playoffs, that's really impressive. Where Purdy struggles, he lacks elite arm strength. He is a pretty good deep ball thrower with his touch and accuracy, but sometimes it can wane. Sometimes it can disappear. And against the Kansas City Chiefs, we saw that. He underthrew George Kittle on that long ball. Could have been a touchdown if he let him. He underthrew Jacob Cowing on that long throw. It could have been a touchdown. Kittle, Cowing, they had to slow up for it. Then they got tackled. And so when he really has to uncork the deep ball, sometimes the arm strength isn't bionic like a Mahomes, a Justin Herbert, a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen. We've also seen Purdy struggle against elite defenses. A couple of times now against the Kansas City Chiefs, a couple of times now against the Minnesota Vikings. He last year struggled against the #1 overall defense in the Baltimore Ravens. He's also not really big in stature. Can he elevate his teammates? At times this year, he's been able to do that. Against Kansas City, elite defense, he couldn't. And we saw on Sunday the difference between Mahomes and Purdy. Both of those quarterbacks, they didn't play their best games. But Mahomes was able to make difference-making plays to lift his team to victory. And, of course, he is the beneficiary of having that great defense. There's also this, which is a little bit concerning. Moving forward, based upon how Purdy performs against man and how he performs against zone, why won't defenses exclusively just play man, considering Purdy struggles against man and Purdy's success against zone, and how on Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs, he looked flustered against man. His completion rate against man, 41.1%. That is 33rd in the NFL. His passer rating against man, 59.3, 32nd in the National Football League. But then you look at how he fares against zone, and this is where his timing, accuracy, touch, and processing help him here because he can find the pockets within that zone. 73.7%. That's sixth passer rating against zone, 130.7, best among all quarterbacks in the NFL. This is a Purdy problem, but this is also a Kyle Shanahan system problem. Kyle Shanahan's offense, when they have to come back from behind, when he's going up against man defense, he's been stopped. He's been stifled. He has to adapt and evolve his offense in trying to figure out a way to play from behind and figure out a way where if defenses take away the run, the pass game can still be successful, and Kyle Shanahan has to figure out, lastly, how to be successful against man defense. And in the process, in trying to find those answers and solutions, he has to help out and lift up his quarterback because he didn't do that on Sunday. And Shanahan, against some of the top defensive minds in the National Football League, this is a very concerning trend. Against Steve Spagnuolo in his career, he's 0-5. Against Brian Flores, he's 0-3. Against Jim Schwartz, 1-8. Against John Harbaugh, 0-2. And all of these defensive minds and teams, they have similar defensive approaches and or similar defensive schemes, and they have found the answers for Kyle Shanahan's offenses. And it's not just Shanahan who's struggling. Bobby Slowick with Houston, Mike McDaniel with Miami, Matt LaFleur with the Packers, Sean McVay with the Rams. They have also struggled against some of these defenses. Be sure to hit that subscribe button here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. We are 149 people away from 147,000 subscribers. If you want Niners shows every single day, I'm your boy. I have you covered. Today's Niners Report, sponsored by Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app in the game. And there are many reasons why there are 10 million active members and why Prize Picks has handed out billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick two or more players. You choose more or less on their projected stats, and you're guaranteed to win some big-time money. And right now, Prize Picks running a special. You play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So pick more, pick less, pick Prize Picks, and get that deal if you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. It is a beautiful Wednesday, October 23rd. We have a great Thursday night football matchup. Minnesota Vikings coming off their first loss against the Los Angeles Rams, coming off a win. Aaron Jones, more than 68.5 rushing yards. Justin Jefferson, more than 81.5 receiving yards. Kyron Williams, a special here, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. So run your game with Prize Picks. We'll put that information and that link down below in the comment section and in the description of today's San Francisco 49ers Report. We appreciate Prize Picks for making today's show possible. All right, so a lot of you have been waiting for this, and I'm building up to this point and to this portion of this conversation. What did that NFL executive say about Brock Purdy? Here you go. They need, the Niners, to make a decision about whether they should just be moving on from this older core and building around Purdy, or do they trade Purdy, get stuff for him, and go with a cheaper option at quarterback. It's about being a guy, being a dude, and Purdy is not in that dude category. Now, can Brock Purdy get it done without his weapons? Remember how he played against the Rams? Remember how he's played at some points throughout his career and this year without some of the complementary, loaded supporting cast members around him? He has been able to lift up his teammates. And as for how Purdy has fared with and without Christian McCaffrey, a good graph here on this Mike Sando article, there really hasn't been much of a difference with Purdy's career stats with McCaffrey on and off the field. You notice the asterisk at the bottom of the screen. That's with Aiyuk or Samuel on the field. So McCaffrey on the field, pass plays 745, completion rate 67%, yards per attempt at 8.8, touchdown interception ratio 40-14, a rating of 105.7, EPA per pass play plus 0.21, EPA per pass attempt plus 0.32, average air yards at 8, percentage of yards after the catch 50%, explosive pass percentage 22.4%. Those are the numbers to the left. And then no McCaffrey to the right. Of course, the pass plays go down. There's a percent difference in completion rate. The yards per attempt is identical. The touchdown interception ratio will change, of course, from 40 to 14 to 16.5. The rating, almost identical, 105.7 to 105.5. The EPA per pass play and the EPA per pass attempt, again, almost identical. The average air yards goes up without McCaffrey at 9.1 as the Niners try to throw the football down the field more. The percentage of yards after the catch, that is a 15% difference without McCaffrey because he's so good after the catch. And then the explosive pass percentage, there is about a 2% difference right there. But on X this week, I have seen Purdy as Jimmy Garoppolo. He's another version of Jimmy G. He's just a little bit better. I'm not sure about that. I think that we have seen a stark difference in a Brock Purdy-led offense as the quarterback for this team and a Jimmy Garoppolo-led offense for this team. And this is how Purdy is outpacing Garoppolo under Shanahan. This is cumulative EPA on pass plays and quarterback rushes. And the bottom number there on the graph is the number of starts under Kyle Shanahan. And obviously, the sample size for Purdy isn't as high as Garoppolo, but look at the yellow. The yellow is Brock Purdy. It's so much higher as far as the EPA on pass plays and quarterback rushes. And there is just a noticeable difference in what our eyes tell us, as I like to say, between Purdy and Jimmy G. And then there's this, our chat stats portion of the show. Purdy is one of 45 quarterbacks to make at least 10 starts since 2022. He ranks first among them in passer rating at 107.9, yards per pass attempt at 9.2, and EPA per pass play at 0.214. So that's Purdy's effectiveness right there. And you can't tell me that he stinks when the sample size has been pretty consistent. Look, all quarterbacks have bad games. Like Patrick Mahomes had a bad game. He's had a bad statistical year, but people aren't talking about that because he's 6-0. And if the defense for the Chiefs wasn't so elite, the Chiefs' record would not be what it is. But Mahomes has also had to make do without the weapons that a lot of other quarterbacks have. And Rashee Rice is out. Isaiah Pacheco has been out. Travis Kelce is aging. They did just trade today for DeAndre Hopkins. That will help them. Juju Smith-Schuster, he has been banged up, but still, sometimes the numbers or a record doesn't tell the full story. To round this conversation out, John Middlecoff, who, thanks for the follow on Instagram, my man. I do appreciate that. I love your content. I think that he's one of the top NFL content creators on YouTube and in the media space. He hosts a podcast under the Volume Podcast Network umbrella, which is owned by Colin Cowherd. And then some of my favorite shows is when he hops on with Colin Cowherd. He made this fair point. Like, why are all of these teams in a rush to pay their quarterbacks? For instance, the Jaguars, they panic and they pay Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence might very well stink. So another option for the San Francisco 49ers here, if they don't want to pay Brock Purdy after this year, let him play the final year of his contract out. The Rams did that with Jared Goff. The Dolphins did that with Tua Tagovailoa. The Vikings did that with Kirk Cousins. And the Cowboys did that with Dak Prescott. This is the final year of Dak Prescott's deal. They did pay him back several weeks ago, but that is an option that the Niners could have Purdy play out the final year of his contract so that they can be sure that he's a franchise guy. They can be sure that he is worth $50 to $60 million per year. And if some troubling signs do continue for the remainder of this year, why should they be in a hurry to pay Brock Purdy? This is a business, and you have to make sure that you're going to make good on that investment, and that investment is going to be worth it. Is there any scenario where you would trade quarterback Brock Purdy? Let me know down in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up with Prize Picks. We'll see you on later today.